along with my co-chair, Anita Hardy, and the members of the Arts Committee, welcome you this afternoon. Today's program is in honor and celebration of Jazz Appreciation Month and National Poetry Month. Today's guest, Navasha Daya, has a delightful program planned just for us this afternoon where she will marry those two areas of art, jazz and poetry. Today's program is entitled Celebrating African Americans in the Arts, and that is what we do as the Arts Committee. And we focus on two particular genres in time, the Harlem Renaissance and the Black Arts Movement. So I'm so thrilled to have you here with us today. At this time, I had the pleasure of introducing Iota Lambda Omega Chapter's President, Sharon Stanley Merriweather. She will be immediately followed by Tiffany Townsend to introduce today's guest. I would also like to let you know that there will be a Q&A period during today's program. So feel free to put your questions in the chat for Navasha. I will be monitoring the chat and will moderate the Q&A. At this time, I present to you Sharon Stanley Merriweather. Thank you.
Good afternoon, and thank you for joining. I am Sharon Stanley Merriweather, President of the Incomparable Ladies of Iota Lambda Omega Chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. April is a very special month as it marks the dual celebration of jazz and poetry. These two expressive art forms are intertwined and are definitely worth celebrating. In celebration of Jazz and Poetry Month, it brings me great pleasure to welcome you to this program, Celebrating African American Cultural Legacy in the Arts, featuring singer, songwriter, and producer Navasha Daya. Iota Lambda Omega celebrates the arts under the leadership of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority's International President, Dr. Glenda Glovers, exemplifying excellence through sustainable service programs. Our goal is to engage in arts enrichment and culture by focusing on visual and performing arts and by showcasing talent through the exploration of writers, entertainers, and various other artists. Today's program demonstrates our commitment to arts education, exposure, and enjoyment. Before I go, I would like to thank our program chairman and first vice president, Angela L. Williams, Target 4 chairman, who you heard from, April Randall, and Anita Hardy, and the entire Target 4 committee for putting together this incredible educational celebration of jazz and poetry. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. I want to just give a brief introduction to our today's guest, Navasha Daya. Navasha Daya, she is an internationally renowned recording and performing artist, songwriter, singer, composer, producer, choreographer, and committed cultural arts activist who is internationally known as a breathtaking performer. On stage, Navasha embodies the indigenous female spirit and inspires women throughout the world. In addition to her solo career, Navasha toured from 2013 through 2015 as a guest artist singing with Grammy Award-winning a cappella group, Sweet Honey in the Rock. Prior to her solo releases, Navasha served as a lead vocalist, songwriter, and co-founder of the highly acclaimed Baltimore-based jazz soul band Fertile Ground. A Baltimore transplant by the way of Cleveland, Ohio, Navasha Daya impact on the world reaches far beyond the stage. Navasha is also co-director of the Cherry Hill Arts and Music Waterfront Festival in South Baltimore, Maryland, and co-founder and director of the Healing and Performing Arts of the Youth Resiliency Institute, a nonprofit that serves youth and families in Baltimore, Maryland, and East Cleveland, Ohio. Again, thank you very much for joining us, Navasha, and the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy to be here with you all this Saturday afternoon. This is my birthday month, so I'm very excited and just looking forward to connecting with you all about this genre called jazz. It's very complicated and unique. I want to start off by talking about the history of the word jazz. So jazz, they say it started off in New Orleans. There's a lot of debate about that. And it's the combination of ragtime and the blues, because ragtime had the rhythm and then blues had the notes. And so there are a lot of different artists that interpret the different styles of jazz. That's the one big part of jazz that I find that's very important. And there's different aspects of jazz where the important part of the listener is so important, as well as the musician. So the musician is important. The musician grows in jazz. I'm sort of partial to having a jazz root as an artist. If you have a foundation in jazz vocally specifically, there's a certain way you hear melody and hear melody and hear rhythm and play into the sounds of the instruments around you that you may not get in other environments. Sometimes you are more about the feeling and the spirit coming through you as you're singing these runs and these riffs and ad-libbing. And jazz, it requires you, specifically as a vocalist, to be very sensitive to the music around you and the music that you hear and the musicians. And the listeners, I don't know about you all, but in my foundation in jazz, because it was introduced to me in a young age, I have a certain vibe and feeling I have no matter what genre of jazz that I am hearing. And we'll get into the genre shortly. And so it's the listener is just as important as the artist in jazz specifically. And I want to say that jazz is an art form that started in as late as the last bit of the 1800s, beginning of the 1900s to now. So it's a long genre. It's been here for a long time. Very comparable to hip hop in regards to a genre that supersedes and changes and evolves and still remains there. I will say as a disclaimer that a lot of artists did not want to be called jazz artists, actually. And so that's a very complicated history in regards to jazz music. A lot, I know, for instance, Gary Bartz, which I'll talk about a little later, didn't like to be called a jazz artist. I think we go along with it because you get articles and understand how to book you as an artist, and you get on jazz festivals. But if you look at jazz festivals, Mary J. Blige is on those festivals now. So what does that mean? We have really shifted the way we see jazz now, and it might just mean live music at this point. But for those of us who study the art form, we know that it's more than that. So you have in jazz, you have original songs, and then you have covers. And in jazz, it's really, let me adjust myself so I can be properly, okay. And jazz is very unique because people really wanted to see how you arranged musically with the instruments, or how you vocally approached a song written by someone else. It's a big part of jazz where they want to see how you interpret the song. So from musicians to instrumentalists, and it's really hard. I have a tricky feeling about instrumentalists versus vocalists because I feel like our voice is instruments. I'm really into words. So, but vocalists and their interpretation of songs, and they'll be known for how they sing. Like Betty Carter, for instance, is known for her scatting. I mean, her big long notes like a horn, versus Ella Fitzgerald, which is known for this really pretty but really quick ability to scat. So people looked at your quality of voice, versus now we're really about branding and how you look and how many likes you have online. Unfortunately, it's not about the quality of the art form. It's not looked at that way. And that's just something we've moved out of in a sense of the mainstream art, because jazz used to be the hip hop of the olden days. I tell my young people, excuse me, when I introduced them to jazz, that jazz was like hip hop of back in the day. And it journeyed through different genres of jazz, but it was the hip hop of that day. So I know that there's another, and there were a couple of notable composers during that time that were writers of original jazz. I know you have the George Gershwins, but getting to the Black ones, you'll see like, Fats Waller, which I'll talk about a little bit. You have Duke Ellington, Count Basie, and those people who were band leaders were held in a certain esteem because you got a job with them, you were able to tour with them. So with jazz, another thing I want to share from the inside is that I know for a fact that Abby Lincoln really wanted to be known. She's an actress, a singer. She was married to Max Roach. She comes in a different kinds of, she's been around so long that she's filtered and moved to different genres of jazz, but she really wanted to be known as a songwriter. And a lot of female artists, there was a little thing there with that in regards to being a vocalist and a songwriter. It's like, sing what we give you. And I remember speaking to Nita Freelon, who is another vocalist out there, and she's up for a Grammy right now. Her son is went for a Grammy for his documentary on hair. I want to say no, it's not on hair. He's not gonna do that one. I forget, but he's doing a children's album. So they're both up for a Grammy this year. But she shared with me when we saw each other on the festival circuit that, for her, a lot of the record companies want you to cover songs versus you writing your own music. And as an artist, I have moved through my journey being a songwriter and maybe singing songs, but it's within the original songs within the group versus doing singing songs that have been written. Although the jazz standards, you sing those songs definitely in shows, but that's a difference too. I find that in jazz, it's about covering songs and creating your own arrangement for the song, which when it comes to royalties and publishing rights, that means our people did not get a lot of money for when they recorded their albums. They got notoriety, gigs, some points possibly depending on the arrangement with the record company, but they didn't necessarily make money as it relates to them writing the songs themselves. So that's something I want to take note on in jazz. And just another way people see it, as the newer school artists came forward, they started writing their own music and really fighting to do that, specifically vocalists, because instrumentalists kind of did that before, but vocalists writing their own music. I am going to now go into the different genres of music. I'm going to show you pictures of folk, and then I'll share music after I do the slideshow. So presentation. So let me get that together. And just so you all know, I'm not the techie savviest person of the earth, but I'm going to get it to you. Share screen. So in the beginning, you have ragtime. And I talked about how ragtime and blues and stride. I don't know if you know about Scott Joplin, entertainer. That's the ragtime. So that time period, you know, there was ragtime and the blues. And so you have Bessie Smith, and then you have Fats Waller. You see his face, right? He's really hilarious. And he's the one that wrote Ain't Misbehaving, which made it to Broadway. So these are really, they have Louis Armstrong, who's from New Orleans. And even though his mentor was King Oliver, he was, you know, got really popular. And a lot of these artists in those times as Black folk made it to the silver screen in addition to being recording artists. And they would choose if they wanted to be activists or not. And some people did not. And there's a whole thing with the musicians world with that. But because these are people in the 1800s, these are people born in late 1800s, and were prosperous in the 1920s, 1910s, 1930s. So that is blues. And so Bessie Smith, there was a whole movie with her, and then you know, Louis Armstrong, of course, and Fats Waller. And then you have, yes.
We lost your video.
Oh, I know. I turned video off.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. I'm going to remove your spotlight. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. And so then you go to swing jazz, which was big band music. So you have all these different arrangers, right? And so people were looking for people who would arrange music, who would have their own band, you can gig with them. So some notables you'll see, and I'm gonna do the pointer towards them. You have Duke Ellington, who was born in Washington, D.C. And he's one of the originators of big band. I mean, I want to say he's older than all the other ones on the page right now. And he wrote a lot of notable songs like Caravan, A Train, It Don't Mean a Thing. And then you have Count Basie. And now Count Basie had his Count Basie Orchestra. And he was a pianist, organist, and band leader and composer. And he was known for Every Day I Have the Blues. And I'm going to play some of these songs a little later. And he was known, you know, and once again, as an artist, you really want to connect with those who are arranging songs, but also who are band leaders to get you on the road gigging yourself. And a lot of people come out of these bands and make it as artists, as individual artists recording their own music. It was a process and a pathway for those times. And you have in the right upright corner, Miss Mary Lou Williams. She wrote and arranged for Benny Goodman, for Duke Ellington, and was a mentor to people like Thelonious Monk and Charlie Parker and Miles Davis and Tad Dameron, who's below her, who was actually from Cleveland, Ohio, where I'm from, I was born and raised there. And he's a composer and arranger, and one of the most influential arranger of the bebop era. And then you have next, you have jazz blues. And so you have, you know, Dinah Washington up on the top left, who I love. She has a beautiful, unique voice. And then you have Billie Holiday in the center, which a lot of people know her for her jazzy, bluesy style approach. And then on the right top, you have Shirley Horn, and she was known for a more chilled vocal, laid back kind of singing. And she could accompany herself, which was a big deal because every vocalist did not accompany themselves on piano. On the bottom left, you have Carmen Bradford, who actually sung with Count Basie Orchestra in like the 80s. And I actually had a chance to sing with her when I was in high school at a jazz festival in Cleveland, Ohio. and she's really, really nice. But you know, the jazz, what happens when you become a part of a big band, it actually helps you make it. So these people, these ladies here, with the exception of maybe Shirley Horn, as I know as a vocalist, did not necessarily write their music, but they were featured with bands, and a lot of arrangers would try to find them and book them and record them on their albums because they got really popular. Next, we have the bebop, and then we have post-bop era. And so we move away from this big band, big horn sound to like smaller units of people coming together, still improvising. And then you still have a swing, maybe a swing where you have the drums where you play the hi-hat or you play one of the cymbals. But Ella Fitzgerald is in the big band area too, but I want to space her out a little bit. And behind her, looking at her adoringly, is Dizzy Gillespie, who is one of the archetypes of bebop, him and Charlie Parker, which is real fast improvisation over a steady beat. And then you have Miss Sarah Vaughan, of course. And then in the middle, excuse me, you have V. Red, who is a saxophonist. And I want to really introduce other artists that people may not know that are female instrumentalists, because a lot of times, even from my journey as a vocalist, I did not know a lot about different female instrumentalists. And so I had to learn as I became an adult. And that's something I would like to change in the schools. And then you have Straight Ahead, which is more of a drive. You have Elvin Jones up on the left, and he really helped with, you know, the dynamics of the drum, because at one point the drums are just there swinging. But then you have Elvin Jones comes up and he's playing with John Coltrane, who they play avant-garde as well. And he's making the drums more present in the music. And once again, that's what I'm telling you, the listener is just as important as the instrumentalist, because as listeners, people who listen to jazz, they're like really, really serious, like academic people, and they know their stuff, especially overseas. They know everyone who played on the album, who played what, the progress of their careers is really amazing. So Elvin Jones is one of the archetypes of, in that style of Straight Ahead, which is mainly the idea that you didn't introduce electric music to it. You kind of stayed straight into the jazz realm without the big band sound. And you could have a smaller trio and then have polyrhythmic rhythms, and then and still upright bass swinging a little bit. And then you have Melba Liston. You see her down there with the trombone. And then on the top right, you have Miss Betty Carter. As you can see with her mouth open, she was an extreme vocally horn sounding woman, very feisty, and really was known for her style of scatting, which was different than the fast bebop swing era. And it was more tonal and spread out, which everybody that created something influenced those who came behind them. Then you have Miss Carmen McRae, really smooth melodic voice, similar to Sarah Vaughan. And she also could play piano and accompany herself. Excuse me. And then you have Hazel Scott on the right bottom right. And I don't know if you all saw that Grammy Awards where Alicia Keys was playing two pianos. She got it from Hazel Scott. Hazel Scott, mother played piano. She had a scholarship. She was a prodigy. She had a scholarship to Juilliard in New York. And because of her virtuoso, which means being able to play really quick with your fingers, she would introduce that into a lot of the different jazz genres. And was known as really comparable. I'm sorry. She was sought after as a pianist, and all the musicians loved her as a pianist and really looked up to her and would see what she would play. She also, as a lot of these folk would become, she's from the era where they became movie stars as well, and she demanded a lot for African Americans and our rights in that time. Now, John Coltrane at the bottom, a lot of you may be familiar with like A Love Supreme, which I'll play a little later. But he was bebop. And a lot of these people are from swing big band, and they kept moving through, you know, the different genres. But he also helped create the avant-garde style that we all hear. That's not quite fusion, because fusion, which we'll talk about second, introduces electric instruments. These are all still acoustic instruments where there's no electricity plugged in for them to play. Then you have fusion, which is in the 70s, which is when I was born. So I'm very familiar with fusion, and I love fusion. You may see some familiar faces on there. In the middle, you have Miles Davis, who amazingly never stopped growing. So he was in the swing side. I really admire him because as an artist, you want to stick with the styles that are coming out. So he went from bebop and from swing to bebop into jazz fusion and reinvented himself. Of course, he was married to Betty Davis, Cicely Tyson as well, but Betty Davis influenced him musically because she was friends with like Sly and the Family Stone, and all these funky players, and that influenced him, his style of wearing clothes. So when we look at him reinventing himself in the fusion era with those big glasses and fly outfits, that was from Betty Davis, that woman who is known as a funk lady, funk woman, who just recently in rock and roll, who recently transitioned early this year. Hopefully we'll get into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, because she influenced a lot of musicians, including Jimi Hendrix. And she was friends with him as well. Up on the left and the bottom, you have George Benson and Stanley Clarke. So George Benson, they're both playing. So you see, they're playing like electric instruments. So George Benson is a composer and writer, but he plays piano. So that's when they created all these electric instruments, and people just start going crazy, creating sounds like, oh, we can do more things with these instruments. And then you have Stanley Clarke, who can play upright bass, but during the times we moved to fusion, which is electric music. And if you see on the bottom, I'm with him. What is his name? Grover Washington, excuse me, on saxophone. But I had a performance with them with Capitol Jazz Festival in DC. The cruise actually, and there's George Duke, Lord have mercy, George Duke, excuse me, who I grew up loving, and Stanley Clarke, older. And then on the right side, you have Rochelle Farrell and I. She had a show at Morgan State University years ago, and Fertile Ground, we opened for her. And she came downstairs and said, you know, you should come up and sing with me. And I hadn't performed yet. And I was like, I'll wait till your DC show. She's like, no, come on today. And I grew up singing her stuff, like not grew up, but when I was like 17, 18, when I auditioned for Berklee College of Music, she was one of the songs that I added to my repertoire. And when I got to Morgan, I would sing her songs, sing her songs all the time. But she opened my voice because her instrument is very unique. She accompanies herself and plays, but she also has a very unique voice where she can do a lot with her voice. And so she kind of crosses over from jazz fusion to like an R&B style as well. Then you have Latin jazz, which always existed during the time of music as we grew in America. It was just in Cuba. And then people started coming over. So you have on the left, Tito Puente, who's known, he plays timbales and shakeré and all these things. And then you have Chano Pazzo in the middle with Dizzy Gillespie. Now, Chano Pazzo is the one that came from Cuba to New York and brought that sound. And Dizzy Gillespie, you see his face like, oh, okay, this is nice. And so you have Dizzy on the right, upright, and he's the one that really pushed Latin jazz in the market of America. And as you see, he's known for the cheeks, and all of us saw that on the Cosby Show through the years. And on the bottom right, you have Pancho Sanchez. So that kind of, that instrumental thing where you don't just have percussion, but you bring in horns and brass. Those are things that show and change the genres. That's how genres change, by the instruments that are introduced to the music, in addition to the writing of the music, in addition to the approach to the solos and the vocals. So that's how it evolves naturally. As we get more instruments and people come together, a new sound emerges. And then you have smooth jazz, acid jazz, which as an artist, specifically in Fertile Ground, I didn't really get into genres myself. I was more into just making the music. But of course, people have to have a market for, have to introduce you in order for you to be marketable. So you have Brand New Heavies on the left with India Davenport. You have in the middle Incognito with Mesa Leak, who lives in Baltimore and is from Baltimore. And then you have myself, Fertile Ground. And we were all bands. They're my elders, these two ladies. And I know both of them personally, and they're both awesome. I've booked both of them for different things we've done. We've been on projects together. It's amazing. I really, really adore them. And Rochelle Farrell, once again, was very sweet as well. So in this industry, it's really nice when you meet people who've been in it longer than you and are older than you, that can, kind of are very kind and open when they meet you and in the artistry and work together. So that is acid jazz. And I'll share an example of that later as well. And then you have this thing called M-Bass, which is so unique. And I don't know why they named these things, but it's basically these people from Brooklyn said, we're going to create our own sound. And they did it in a way where it was like, there's space there's percussion, maybe some African influences, they just kind of created another sound, and we had to name it. So it was named M-Bass. So on the top left, and all of them on this picture can swing too, though. They can all sing straight ahead. But in their recordings, you'll find that they have like unique rhythms and things like that. So you have Diane Reeves on the left top, who I've never met, but she highly influenced me with my vocal percussion scatting. And how she would follow the instruments. I do that a lot on stage, where I just listen to everything around me and try to use that to help me improvise at that time, to inspire the improvisation. And so I might start scatting to the drums, or scatting to the percussion, or scatting to the bass, or scatting to the piano. And I learned that from Miss Diane Reeves, who I've not met yet, but I will, because I love her. And then in the bottom left, you have Dee Dee Bridgewater, who has a unique career, because She worked with the father of neo soul, Roy Ayers, back in the day. So she's a flexi. I call her in the group of flexies. Her, Phyllis Hyman, Shaka Khan. They are women who sung and can sing different genres well. Not just approach them, but they actually sing them well. Like Shaka Khan can really sing funk. She can really sing jazz. She can really sing R&B. Phyllis Hyman, she can really sing jazz. She can really sing soul. She can really sing R&B. Dee Dee Bridgewater is the same. And so she made her way, and obviously in the jazz realm now, but she started off in the Roy Ayers work, singing with him, and it got her into her stardom to be able really to success is selling albums, but to being able to tour anytime you want. That's what we look at as success as vocalist. And then on the top right, you have Miss Cassandra Wilson, who's very well known. It's almost like the Tracy Chapman voice of jazz, because she came in with a really husky, deep voice. Nita Baker, people who have these deep voices versus the light, high voice that the people expect from women. And she definitely did. She's definitely one of the grounding people of M bass, where she has, just a Shaker Ray in her singing, a Shaker Ray and a tom. They just get experimental. And I think that influenced people like Esperanza Spalding and all of us coming after them. And then of course, in the middle, you have Abby Lincoln, who is not just only a singer. She was married to Max Roach, the drummer. And she also was a movie star as well. But she was the one I spoke about earlier that writes her own songs and would sing more in an open space style of singing. And she would create her own style of music. And it would sometimes be, the bass line would be kind of straight, and it wouldn't be a lot along, like when you swing, you have, and I'll turn my camera because I'm doing a lot of body language I might appreciate. When you swing, when the bass is swinging, you're like doom 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 doom, that kind of thing. With her, she might have the doom doom. She's scatting in a way that has a lot of air. This genre right here in bass is a space where people have a lot of air and a lot of space, not just in a ballad style, but even if it's fast, it's in a tempo is faster, there's still a lot of space there for the vocalists to find other melodies and people to play together. Because avant-garde, which I didn't mention, but it's like, I call it avant-garde, and I actually just call it John Coltrane, where you just kind of go off in space and everybody just kind of holds a space and just make music, and you just may not even make sense. It's just everything is happening, and you come to a head, and then you end the song, or you go to the head of the song. That's actually the difference with straight ahead. So straight ahead, I guess the word head in there is like there's a melody that's there that people go to after they improvise. So it might be improvisation, a drum solo, whatever, and then they go back to the head. Dun, 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 bum, ba-dun, dun, dun. And straight ahead does that. Bebop kind of did that too, but bebop is in between swing and straight ahead. So it has a little different kind of thing with it. Okay. And I speak really fast. So please just tell me if you're like, hey, you're speaking too fast. I'm just very excited. So you have this next genre called new jazz, and I could put it together, new jazz, and I put jazz hip hop. So on the bottom left, you have the Diggable Planets. On the bottom right, you have Tribe Called Quest. In the middle, you have Far Side. And for those of us from that era of hip hop, the 90s, late 80s, 90s, I love that genre of hip hop, mainly because of the music that's within the beat, and then also the messaging. That's just my personal opinion. But we all know the Diggable Planets. It's cool like that. Boom, 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 boom. And they have bass line in there. So hip hop back in the day didn't always do that. At the West Coast, they kind of used like funk music when they did their hip hop. And other people might have sampled soul music, like James Brown is highly sampled. These groups actually used, sometimes they sampled jazz, and then sometimes they had original jazz, like Ron Carter on the top right. He's a bass player, and he played on the Tribe Called Quest, one of their albums. He actually played the live bass on there. So they incorporate a master musician on their hip hop album with electronic beats. So that's that fusion part where you're not just acoustic and not just electric, it's mixed together. And that's where we get the word fusion, which I love that time period before this, where you had fusion from the 70s with Joni Mitchell and Jaco. He's one of my favorite bass players. And they had this thing. I might be a little academic now with the thing, but the fretless bass, which sounds totally different than a bass with frets on it, which just means those lines that go across. You don't have those on there, and so you just kind of move and slide a different way. And they might have that fret. They have electric bass, upright bass and everything, or double bass as they call it. And in the middle, you have Gary Bartz, who's a master, and he played with Miles Davis. He played with a lot of people. He played with Phyllis Hyman. So he's a person, and he told me out of his mouth that he didn't really like to be looked at as the genre of jazz only. Like he's more than that. He's a person that crosses genres. I pride myself on doing the same. There's some artists like Lettucey, who's on here, who's my girl. She's bad and wonderful. And like a wonderful vocalist, and she can sing different genres. She can sing gospel, she can sing soul, she can sing jazz. She can sing Broadway. She's versatile. And I pride myself on, being that way as well. And so Let Us See would look more like crossover, because she's not really the neo soul thing. It comes from the Roy Ayers thing, which I'll play later, and you'll see how it sounds like Omar in London or Erykah Badu, and just the journey of how that came about, which is like soul with a jazz inflection, but it's not really jazz. It's, it's an interesting fusion of it in some way. And I never really appreciated the title neo soul, but it is what it is. And I felt like in Fertile Ground specifically, we would do Latin jazz, we would do all kinds of different styles of music, but because of marketing, people would just say neo soul. And then you have myself with the new song, and me contributing to this genre as well. And then of course you have Esperanza Spalding, wonderful bassist and singer, who goes between those realms as well. Because a lot of us, what we do as vocalists and jazz musicians, we I know for me, I study the different styles. I haven't sung ragtime or anything, but I do sing the blues, and I do sing straight ahead jazz, and I have swung with big bands, and I have done jazz fusion, and I have sung Latin jazz, and I have a lot of music out in the Latin jazz, and I have a lot of music out in the acid jazz world, because I'm on dance songs that have scatting, which I'll play later, that has scatting and horns and swinging, but it's like a house sounding thing. That's the acid jazz world. So it's a very interesting thing, the journey of the different genres of jazz. So I'm gonna play right now, and then I'll stop after this because I feel like there may be questions. One of my newer songs is from my upcoming project, a tribute to my cousin Gil Scott Heron. And let me look at the time. Okay, Gil Scott Heron, and he was a person that spoke truth to power. He crossed genres as well. He was known for more of a jazzy style to a certain degree because of the instruments he chose. So it was like more of that M-bass kind of thing with the last poet poetry over it, Afrocentric. It's an interesting thing because it's really hard to describe things. I'd rather people just, just appreciate it. But he didn't always have a drum set. He would have a percussionist drive the rhythm the whole show. And then he would play Rhodes, which made it more fusion versus him playing piano. So, but he's known for his message music and for the messages that he shared. And so I wanted to continue that. We had a conversation when I was before he transitioned, way before he transitioned, and we talked about doing some music together. And I don't know why I wasn't so aggressive initially before that, because I'm open for him. I just didn't really pull the I'm cousins from cousins of Gil Scott card kind of thing. It was just more like, yeah, we do this, as we're a family, and and I have other family members that are musicians. But I really realized that in this time we're in, and we always need the messaging of what he sung about and what he wrote in his lyrics specifically. So I'm doing a tribute album for him. I'm completing it. The COVID pandemic has shifted some of it in regards to the recording and being able to record and stuff like that. But yeah, to be able to record. But I'm moving and grooving and doing it. So I'm gonna play the one song, and then I'll go to the different genres as well after that. So it's so much to share about this genre. Thank you, Source. It's so much to share about this genre called jazz, because I was just, so many things came to my mind when I was listening to that. Because what I find is that if you are a vocalist on this call, on this Zoom, and you want to expand your voice, I would say to, listen to vocalists and imitate them. But jazz gives you arsenal. So if you're like listening to bebop and singing those songs, and listen to acid jazz and singing to straight ahead and singing to fusion, if you listen, and I could just do a whole bunch of analysis on this song. There was a point where Gary Bartz went to like an avant-garde John Coltrane style. There's like African rhythms, and it's a very interesting thing. So yeah, and of course the messaging is really important, and I'm really into the messaging. Obviously, I mean, it's the history of my life as an artist. I'm really into messaging, and so it's very important, liberation for my people. And it's the 100th year of it's the 200th year of Miss Harriet Tubman, which our festival, the Cherry Hill Arts and Music Waterfront Festival, will be that's one of the aspects of the theme. However, it's also the 100th year of, we're still within the 100th year of the red, black, and green flag. So so I just want to share that. So I guess I know we don't have a lot of time, and I think maybe we can go to questions versus me playing the music. But I did want to share that one of the things that I find, if you're an educator, that we're in a time now where young people are not influenced by their family, they're more influenced by their peers, compared to when I was younger, that you were influenced more by your family than somewhat of your peers. And so we have a lot of work to do. And I work in this work that I do as an artist, but also in the community, like on the ground. I have to take some permission slips for a trip to Annapolis so my children can know about legislation and that they can actually write their own laws. So this is serious work. It's sacred work to me in regards to the community work I do. And as an artist, I take it quite seriously. I mean, I write about love, and I sing about love, and I sing about things to uplift humanity, and work with other artists who are doing the same. My introduction to jazz was my parents introduced me to fusion, which is that sound from the 70s where it was like electric music and George Duke and Herbie Hancock and all these people with electric and funky stuff, and Miles Davis was part of that too. When I got to school, I went to Cleveland School of the Arts in Cleveland, Ohio, and auditioned in third grade, got admitted. I auditioned with dance. I was a ballerina, actually. The only Black girl in my class, had a Russian teacher. It was very traumatizing. I was very skinny, but he made me seem like I was fat because apparently I had a good abilities, and he was trying to make me feel bad. I don't know, dance was cruel. But I ended up being a singer, obviously, and in our School of the Arts, it was from 4th grade to 12th in Cleveland, Ohio at the time. And so you got to see the older ones there. So I started singing in a group, and then I started singing with the choir, and we sung jazz. We sung Fats Waller, Count Basie, Quincy Jones, Birdland, all these different things, Manhattan Transfer, and I was introduced by my teachers. And so the teachers and parents, we have a responsibility as well to make sure our young people are hearing different styles of music, even if just casually as they do work. Because then it goes to their subconscious, and they say, oh, that's something acceptable that I've heard before. It's not it don't have to be academic. Now, it was fun for me because I was singing it and doing moves. And so it's fun to me. But a lot of young people, they don't look at it as fun. So I would love to bring that back to the schools, where we look at the journey of African-American music in a real way that connects with the young people from pre-K to high school and college, so that they see the value of knowing this music, not just for their own history, but for the fun of it, to be able to go to when they feel sad, because certain styles of music help you feel better. I'm trying to wrap it up. And then also, if they're musicians, they can add to their arsenal of their instrument, in their voice, whatever, sing gospel, sing blues, sing jazz, sing soul music, listen to everybody. That's my thing. Listen to as many people as you can and get a mentor. So I'll stop there. And I think I'm I only have 2 minutes. And and so I'm just very, excited, and, and if, and I'm available. I love working with young people and sharing these things with them directly, especially those who are singers. I haven't been able to teach private voice because I'm too busy, but I have done vocal coaching on projects when, and hired to do that, so that I can assist someone vocally in their project, to use those things I've learned of different parts of your voice to get the sound. There's times I record in the studio and it's like I sound too jazzy. There's times I record in the studio and I sound too pop, or I need to sound pop. I sing Whitney Houston. I can sing Whitney Houston. I just never recorded it. So I've sing European classical. I'm trained in European classical. I've sing opera, and I had to learn those different things and put them in my voice. And I worked really hard to navigate to make sure I had the ability to sing different styles. I actually value that. So that's why I've done it. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. No, that was such a treat for us. You could have
Okay.
kept on.
I just felt like I was talking too long. It's so quiet. So I see you all, but it's like blah, 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 so anyway.
Because we were mesmerized by by your the video was mesmerizing, but I have to say I didn't even know that there were so many different genres of jazz. And I think from looking at the chat, because I've been
Oh, okay.
monitoring it, that was just really um, it was very impactful. And just also seeing how the different genres of jazz have influenced some of our modern day musicians. Like I didn't even think about the influences there as it related to A Tribe Called Quest. I did see it in Lettucey, but I didn't think of it in terms of A Tribe Called Quest. But when you mentioned it and I went through some of the songs without making sure I didn't take myself on mute and start rapping, right? Because y'all don't want to hear that. I was like, oh, okay, yes, I can see how that would, I can see the influences there. So we did have a few questions
Okay.
that have come through. One was, what category does French jazz fit in?
Which kind?
French jazz music?
French jazz? I'm not familiar totally, but it depends on that's a good question because I didn't find that anywhere. There are different jazzes in Europe that I kind of avoided because jazz originated here. So anything they're doing is a hybrid. They do take it much more seriously though overseas, I tell you. They hold our history like in a real serious way. But I don't know. I don't know if French jazz, they talk, and I don't know who the person was, if you're speaking about French jazz before New Orleans or in that movement there or something that came later, because that would help me understand if what year it came out would help me understand what probably influenced it. So.
Okay. Well, I think that's also to your point is that you have jazz music here as well as in other countries. It may sound a little bit different. The influences may be different and the tenor, but you know, it's definitely versatile in that regard. Another question that that's come through, who inspired you? And you spoke a little bit about that earlier.
Yes.
But I'd like to hear a little bit more.
Yes, I'm changing my, does that look better now? Because I noticed that my page was not showing the language. Do you see it's celebrating America? I just want to make sure my backdrop was accurate.
Oh,
I saw
you're
yours.
fine.
I was like, mine doesn't look.
Well, don't worry, because my green screen's going in and out. But
okay, so
your beauty resonates through. Don't worry about the green visual screen.
All right. I was just trying to, I'm a little perfectionist a little bit. Oh my God. So vocally, I want to say the first person, and I have her birthday, April 25th, is Ella Fitzgerald. We share the same birthday. And I want to say my teacher introduced her to me. I got to see her when I was like 17 or something, a couple of years before she transitioned. I was so honored. And she did not lose her voice. She didn't smoke or anything, which a lot of people did smoke. And you kind of lose your voice a little bit. The clarity move shifts and your voice gets lower, like Sarah Vaughan happened to her, even though Sarah Vaughan is the divine one, as we call her, and smooth. But I think initially it was Ella Fitzgerald. So I learned about Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Carmen McRae, and Diana Washington and Billie Holiday around the same time. And I want to say I studied Ella Fitzgerald because she was the most complicated with her scatting. So I was really trying to imitate her, you know, how high the moon, you know, somewhere there's music, how clean the tune, somewhere there's heaven, how high the moon, the night will shine if you will come to me too, until you come through, as you love me, as I love you, somewhere there's heaven is where you are, somewhere there's music, how near, how far. And then she goes to that, and it's swinging. Anyway, so she's like a lesson for me. I'm still studying her forever because that scatting style is not easy, and it was a part of the time, so everybody knew how to do it. And it was she grew up. She was with Dizzy and Charlie Parker, so she's just hanging with them. And she quoted songs. She quoted songs that were there, like hi. I mean, she would quote songs that were popular within her scatting. I do that now, and in jazz, that's what we do. We quote stuff. Reggae does that. Reggae will quote a song in a minute and cover it, you know, and hip hop lyricists will cover something or say something really slick. So that idea of being slick in your music, jazz did that. They would quote something like haha in the horn line, like, oh, you know, you'll see in the sets, oh. And so as a vocalist, I would try to, when I'm performing, okay, I need to insert something in here and think of something that matched the melody to be slick or whatever. And so in jazz and then reggae, which I do sing reggae. I was in my dad's roots reggae band from age 13 to 18. So I'm a roots reggae baby as well. So I grew up with a lot of music. My father's a musician, so I grew up with music in the living room rehearsing. I told my mother I tell this all the time. My mother told me, I told her she was flat when I was 4. So I was around music and in that world for a long time. But and then Shaka Khan, because I really admired her. And I knew about Phyllis Hyman, but I think I knew Shaka Khan more because of Rufus and that funk and fusion sound. And so I admired her voice. I didn't imitate the loud singing. I didn't know I could sing like that till I started being asked to do, like, a friend of mine asked me to do Jonathan Gilmore, vocalist here in Baltimore, asked me to participate in the Aretha Franklin tribute. And I was like, what? I don't sing Aretha Franklin. And I did sing Aretha Franklin. And I was like, okay, I can sing Aretha Franklin. And not like her, obviously, but it's this more of a chest open, loud singing, not a smooth, closed mouth singing. It's a lot of chest voice, a lot of pushing. You can't really be hoarse or anything. So, and now I would say Aretha Franklin, because I want to make sure you all know is that whatever genre is out, those consummate vocalists would be able to hang in that genre. So a lot of vocalists like Nancy Wilson, would look at herself as a stylist. She didn't want to be called a jazz singer. She said, I'm a stylist, a vocal stylist. Now it may sound jazzy, but she was really lyrical and fluid with her voice. And so people looked at people as individuals and what they brought versus the branding. That's what we're in now. Like, I mean, Cardi B does have that interesting personality, and Nicki Minaj, I know the people as, Lauryn Hill, but in those times it was about the abilities too, not just the character you had.
And would you say they wouldn't want to be considered jazz musicians because they didn't want to feel pigeonholed?
Yes.
In a particular.
For gigs, for opportunities, because it started shifting. So jazz became obsolete in the sense of new jazz coming out. In the title of jazz, I want to say like the 80s, like right after Miles Davis. And then it started shifting and hip hop got really big. And so jazz labels didn't book you. You don't get, now I will say I've never even said I was a jazz vocalist because I knew you got pigeonholed. I mean, in your later years, it's easier to go in that route because you have gigs forever, especially if you get big and get a Grammy or something, you're gigging forever in jazz. You can live quite comfortably in jazz. Like you can be a millionaire or at least 6-figure in there. I'm making it up in the jazz realm and be comfortable and live a really comfortable life. Even when I sung with 300 Rock, they're my elders and they had a really wonderful, calm tour schedule. It was like, I like flowing with y'all. I mean, it was really calm. You had enough time. You had healthy food. It was just really smooth because they required that in the age that, in the time they put in, and also the age where you can't just rush, hustle and bustle, go on the next plane. And it was real smooth. I really appreciated that actually. So in jazz, I'll stop there. People just don't want to be pigeonholed. That's what it is.
Okay. I can
and I also want to say on the Grammys, do you see on the main day any jazz musicians playing? Even the legends, Herbie Hancock, any of them, Chick Corea when he was alive, they never get to play on the main stage when it's showing live. That lets you know what the industry feels about jazz.
Right. It's not as well respected yet. We see how it has influenced other genres. And quite frankly, they may be surprised. They may have jazz on the stage.
Yep, exactly, playing other genres.
Correct, playing other genres. So to that end, someone asks, where do you see jazz transitioning to in this modern era?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel like the Esperanza Spaldings, it's complicated because I think that what we're doing is maintaining what's already been. If anything, it might get more electric, but right now I think the between the acid jazz and the neo soul and maybe jazz hip hop will come back a little bit more. I wish there was some more jazz hip hop. Some artists will put that music out instead of the trap music, which I don't even like that name. That doesn't sound positive personally, but anyway. I feel like that, that it's basically artists reproducing what's already been, and there are audiences that like it. But right now, like I'm in the age where I'm middle-aged. So let's see, I respect it, but people under me are not going to go to those concerts. And so it's really just about, for me, it's about making sure that young people are educated in music, have proper music education in their schools, they play instruments, because then we don't know what to be birthed. We don't know what's going to come. We need some musicians. We need people who actually play instruments, not just beats on the machine with buttons, so that we can see what births out naturally. Because we've seen the electrical world and we've gone as where we're going to go. Now I want to see what these young people do when they pick up an instrument. That's what I want to see. And even if it marries the electrical, but from their consciousness with the trap, like I have some ideas with trap and hip hop and soul, to be honest, and jazz, that I have an idea. But I haven't really wrote it yet, but I have an idea. I was like, I'm going to mix this together. I'm going to do it. And so there's a way to do that, but we have to get some instruments in these children's hands. They need to listen. And when they play instruments, they start studying artists. They start studying the jazz. They start studying the blues. They start studying James Brown's musicians and the bass, the guy who came up with the drum line, who influenced Fela Kuti in Nigeria. So we get to see the different genres if the children pick up instruments and start studying, because this requires that. As a singer, you don't have to do that. You can just imitate what's on the radio. But instrumentalists, they have to get lessons and listen to people and improve their gift, play Jimi Hendrix and all those different styles. You know, and Jimi Hendrix, I know it's a different genre, is the one that made the pedals. Like, you were like, we can do that with the pedal. And Jimi Hendrix made that happen. And he needs to be honored more, in my opinion, as well.
No, you're absolutely right. You spoke about where we could add to, well, bringing back and ensuring that children are learning about music and instrumental music. I mean, one of the reasons why our international president established this art facet was because we recognize that arts education in schools have been coming. When they start looking for areas to cut, unfortunately, arts education is one. And then also with this arts facet, it was a nice way to introduce young people to Black history, right? The Harlem Renaissance and the Black arts movement. So that there's a lot that you can do with the arts. Another question, from one of your fellow Morganites, wants to know, how did your time at Morgan, especially singing with their choir, shape you as a vocalist?
Oh, wow. So when I had a full scholarship to Berklee College of Music, and my teacher, which is a school in Boston, it's pretty much jazz, rooted in jazz. But anyway, which was a big deal. It's not cheap, and it's an honor. It was an honor. And my teacher said, you should go to Morgan because they have the best HBCU choir. And I think at the time, Hampton before that, it's really based upon the director and their arrangements. So Dr. Nathan Carter, rest in peace, he wrote a lot of really beautiful arrangements of Negro spirituals and sacred work from gospel. And so he got really popular. And so I chose to go to Morgan. I was one of the first groups. My group had the most people from a school of the arts. So you had like Suitland in there, Duke Ellington, myself, and it opened the door for people to come behind me from School of the Arts, Cleveland School of the Arts, excuse me. So my time there, let's see. So when I first got there, I'm coming there. He doesn't know who I am. I'm academically sound. I mean, I'm a good, I'm a, GPCA high, honor roll, honor society child, student. So I come in there with academic money, but no scholarship at the time. I just chose to come there. And I got one eventually from him. But he said, sing something. I said, I'll sing something. And then he brought this other girl who was a freshman up, and Rhonda Harris. Rhonda Harris. I can't remember her last name, but Rhonda, she sounds just like Mahalia Jackson. Oh my God. I was like, all right then. All right, here we go. But it was really wonderful. I traveled and toured the world with the choir, was singing with orchestras. So you're learning this professionalism. He wanted to make sure you looked good. So you learn how to present yourself properly in these settings. I'm learning all these new arrangements of gospel songs and Negro spirituals. I become the president of the choir at one point, Ms. Morgan at another point. And it was just a really great experience. I swear I didn't have a lot of fun time with Ms. Morgan because we were always on tour. Every weekend we had a performance somewhere, at a church or with the orchestra, and then we would go overseas. So as soon as I got there, I was brought into the Singers, which is a smaller group. And I've always had a really good ear, so I could sing from first soprano to second alto vocally. And it's gotten more, it's even expanded more vocal, my range has expanded more over time. And so I would move around, and he didn't miss nothing. That man is a genius. He didn't miss nothing. So he knew I could do that. So I feel like my time there, to sum it up, I had an opportunity to meet like Billy Taylor and all these renowned artists and perform on these great stages that I can add to my resume. So it was a really great honor to work with him and all the people who have on the choir. We call it Choir Fire Choir, even though they did get a real music sorority and fraternity after I left. But anyway, but it was a wonderful experience. We have so many memories. It's hilarious, and it's a run. I feel that if as a vocalist, being on a choir is really good for your foundation. I don't think as a church choir, a school choir, being on a choir helps your ear. And it helps you learn how to harmonize and be respectful. And that's a really good training for vocally, I think.
Okay, that is fascinating. Another question here is, are there any instruments that make a selection of music truly jazz versus a different genre of music?
Oh, that's a good point. So as you heard all those different genres. So basically it's just about the combination of music instruments coming together. So in New Orleans, before it became swing jazz, in the beginning of the swing jazz, before it really became that, they had just all brass and they would just play these funky rhythms. So I want to say, who was it? Was it King Oliver? But they came together and they played all brass and they played these complicated rhythms, which birthed into the swing. So then they started to walk around with the drum set. So it was like, you know how New Orleans is, the what is it called? Oh, Fuki. It's not ragtime, but there's a word for it. I'm sorry, I don't know the name right now, ladies, but they had second line. Thank you. So second line music is it's all brass, and they're used to it. And everybody's jamming, you see how they dance in New Orleans and stuff? So it's a part of the culture, and but that rhythm and the bouncing and all that stuff, because it wasn't just doom bang boom bang boom bang boom bang. It was like doom dun dun, which influenced the jazz, which influenced the swing, but and then you have drums in there, and then piano, and that's when the swing got in there, and then and all the horn lines made it the swing, because the big band is the swing kind of thing. So you can swing in any genre, but swing in the normal, what we call it, is really from big band. And so it's really about the combination. I wouldn't say there's one instrument or combination that makes it jazz. It's really about what genre is based upon the combination and the approach. So if it's electric music in there, it's more fusion, because traditionally jazz is acoustic. So if you have that mixture and it goes into a fusion thing, but you can swing in fusion. It'll just be called fusion.
Now, you mentioned quite a few female jazz musicians. Were they as celebrated and welcome and appreciated?
They were by their peers, but not by the industry. They all knew they was bad, and they called them and said, "Can you arrange your sister? Can you play with me, sister?" Like Louis Armstrong's third wife, she played with King Oliver's group, and she helped his career greatly in his life after he got. Then later he got with Lucille, the one he ended up transitioning with. But she influenced his life. She's a piano player. She's bad. You know, she was touring. There was a woman was bad. Like I need to put it in the chat. Do I have it somewhere? I'll make sure I found it, because I wanted to share it with you. I was just Hazel Scott. Oh, just look her up. Oh my God. It was just this video I saw. I was like, why did not if I would have grew up looking at her, I would have wanted to play piano and been more disciplined, because I'm a piano person. I just was not disciplined. She was bad. I mean, it was amazing what she came up with her finger. I was like, how did she, you know? So musicians know other musicians. Now I will say, as a vocalist, I do get treated differently with musicians. I will say that they ask for more money from vocalists. Like their friends, they'd be like, oh, $25, $50, whatever. But for me, they'd be like, oh, Navasha, you must pay me. So it's a different way I get treated by musicians, but I work to be a cat. That's what you call, vocalist is cat. But females who play instruments like a flute or outside of their bodies, I'm trying to figure out a language for this. Play instruments outside of their bodies. They do have a certain work they have, but they don't get celebrated the same, in my opinion. Definitely not. Even in the industry, like you have Patrice Rushen. Patrice Rushen has made so much music. Valerie Simpson. I mean, she's the foundation of so much music. So but we know the other ones, and it doesn't take away from them. We just want to make sure that is equity, is balanced.
Right. Exactly. Now, you mentioned scatting. So when did that become popular?
Oh. That's a good question. In the swing time, they would, okay, so basically scatting is a vocalist singing only melody to the rhythm and not saying any words. So you can scat slow, boom, it's just a vocalist improvising without lyrics and maybe not singing the head or the melody. And so Ella Fitzgerald heard that one of the times she scattered, or when the first time she scattered, is because she forgot the words, which even if I write the song, I forget the words. It's so horrible. I pray before every show. But it's just a way to improvise. And so in every genre, there are people who scat, and they might scat. And now there's a new style of scat, and I haven't really learned that style really. I was thinking about starting to listen to the young cats who scat that way, because Esperanza scats that way, and some other Jasmine Horn, some other up and coming artists who are younger than me but are really out there, won contests and are just celebrated. Scat a different way than I naturally scat, because even Lettucey scats a little different, but it's really about your style and what comes out of you and who you might have studied. Because when you scat, with the exception of some neo soul people, you could tell some of them that haven't really studied jazz, they just kind of just imitate it versus studying it. There's a difference between imitating a genre and studying it. So I did a tribute to Jimi Hendrix before, a show. And what I did was, I don't play guitar, but I know his spirit and his energy, and where it's, I feel like a kindred spirit with him. And so my guitar player studied him. So we played his songs and I sung them in my way, in my arrangements, and we worked together, obviously, and did a tribute for him, and I sing like a Coco Taylor blues song. So I'm not really known for that in the industry. People have seen in my history of my music, but I've done those kind of things in my artistry with shows to expand myself and have fun. I've done James Brown songs, all kind of stuff. I just have fun, like to have fun with the different genres.
Awesome. That is wonderful. Now, you mentioned earlier the Cherry Hill Music Festival, and someone wants to know, when is that coming back? They want more of that.
That is the cherry. Let me put it in here now to everybody. It's cherryhillfest.org. Let me see. We have some wonderful artists from Cherry Hill, and artists that we book that are not from Cherry Hill, but it's a 6th year, and the last 2 years we were virtual. the first year we had funding. We had a big one in 2019 where we had fireworks on the 4th of July, by the way, July 4th, excuse me. I like to say it that way because we really deal with freedom, and we've been dealing with freedom and healing. And like last year's thing was water has no enemy, stuff like that. We always have things that deal with liberation of our people, and we always have some kind of from Ella Fitzgerald to Harriet Tubman there, Frank. I'm sorry, y'all, I'm getting a little too excited to see Frederick Douglass. And Harriet Tubman always is there in some kind of way through the years that we've had it. So especially when we changed it to for July 4th. So this year will be in person at Middle Branch Park in Baltimore. I put the link in the chat and for the website. We're still we have a couple more weeks before we go live with everything, but it's very exciting. So it's multi-genre. We program it really seriously. I'm a co-director. I do a lot of busy work. I'm there early in the morning directing the stage, where the Porta Johns go, meeting with the people, in the city. So I do, I'm a festival director. And as someone said, you need to be, let's talk about that. You're a woman festival director. That's kind of rare. I was like, yeah, I book people at a festival. It's no joke. It's a lot of work. I have, different people that run different things, and it's growing. And we hope and pray to have a succession of someone younger than me in the future, younger than my husband. And he's the executive director of our organization, Fanon Hill. But we hope, and he's a co-founder along with the elder Miss Shirley Folks, who has been living in Cherry Hill for many years, over 50 years. They co-founded it, and I'm just happen to be the co-director with my husband. But we hope to pass it down one day. We're really thinking about succession, our organization succession, as well as our own personal endeavors. Because if you don't think about that, you'll be 70, 80, like, what do I do now with this wonderful thing I built? And so we're looking at the young people we work with, people who are a little younger than us, to guide them to hopefully one day take over prayerfully.
Yes, we definitely don't want it to die. And we're excited. Thank you for putting the website in the chat. So at this time, Navasha, I know you have a special treat for us that our guests did not know about, because I did not include it in on the flyer. But at this time, Navasha is actually going to perform for us. So thank you so much and enjoy this special treat.
And how much time do I have?
We have great time. You have about 20 minutes. It's 3:36.
Oh, I do? Oh, wow. Okay. All right. So I'm going to sing from the standpoint of some of the genres we talked about. So I'm going to start from this one song that I really love. Like, it's hard for me sometimes because I love all the female singers, but I really love the male composers. And so I found myself, it's easier for me to do tributes to, like, Bob Marley and people like that, Bob Marley, Jimi Hendrix, and people like Duke Ellington, who I'm going to sing one of his songs first. Just a beautiful, beautiful compositions. He just has such great melody. So I'm going to sing one of his songs first, and I'm singing a cappella. Lord, dear Lord of love, God Almighty, God above, please look down and see my people through. Lord, dear Lord of love, God Almighty, God above, please look down and see my people through. I believe the sun and moon are shining in the sky. And when the day is gray, it's just the dark clouds passing by. Lord, please bring us comfort to every troubled mind. Come Sunday, oh, come Sunday, that's the day. I believe the moon and stars are shining in the sky. And when the day is gray, it's just a dark cloud passing by. Lord, please bring us comfort to all troubled mind. Come Sunday, the day. I'm gonna speak a little bit. It's really, when you have composers, it's really about the melody. And I've always loved that song. And the melody is so beautiful. And even what's my girl's name? Not Mary McKeeba. I love her too. Ooh, gospel singer. She sung that song. And see, that's why it goes back to the genre and the style of music that was out in that time. You would sing jazz, or you would sing over beautiful melodies, or you would put that song in a gospel realm because of the message of the music. And so even if it was by a jazz composer, you would still Mahalia Jackson, who I also love, and she's not a jazz singer, but I love her. I'm not a Mahalia Jackson person. I'm not her, little her or anything, but I've been compared in some ways. And certain people say different names. I always take note to that, what they're hearing. But I really love the melody of that song and the message. And I forget who penned the message, but I know Duke Ellington wrote the melody, and it's just so beautiful. Let's see. I'll be loving you always, with a love that's true always. When the things you plan need a helping hand, I will understand always, always. Days may not be fair always. That's when I'll be there always. Not just for an hour, not just for a day, not just for a year, but always. It's not the pale moon that excites me, that thrills or delights me. Oh no, it's just the nearness of you. It isn't your sweet conversation that thrills this sensation. Oh no, it's just the nearness of you. When you're in my arms, and I feel you so close to me, all of my wildest dreams come true. It isn't your sweet conversation that thrills this sensation, just to hold me tight. Oh, ever so right. I want to feel you in the night. The nearness of you. It's interesting in jazz. I think about melody when I'm singing other genres, but in jazz, you can choose so many different things. You don't have to stay with the melody. And the gift of a lot of the vocalists that I admire, like Aretha Franklin, who could sing anything too. I forgot to mention that she could sing anything. And it's not that she even changes her voice. Her voice just goes anywhere. I found that, in the movie they did for her, Mary J. Blige was playing Dinah Washington, which it wasn't accurate, all the things she did. But, hold on. Was it that movie? Okay, I'm sorry. But Dinah Washington was like, we gotta go to the church. This is a girl that can sing. So she's just incomparable. I just love Aretha Franklin, and I wish I would have studied her vocally more, but I caught up quickly. So I'm singing rock steady in my set sometimes, whatever it takes. I love her. Her voice is just incomparable. Okay. So let's see what I want to do for you next. Sing for you next. It's so interesting. Y'all are so quiet. Can y'all say something? Are y'all there? I think I see. Okay, I see the comments.
No, we're absolutely here. We're just, myself, I have chills, and you don't want me singing along with you. You mentioned rock steady, so again.
Oh, rock steady. That's what I feel now. I know.
I may lose friends on here.
Yeah. I mean, that's a distance. So in rock steady, and I'll talk a little bit too, is that Aretha Franklin is like, gospel has the blues in it. I think Rochelle Ferrell said all the funk went to the church. There's no more funk in the music business anymore. It's all in the church. They got all the funk music, all the funk sounds, because, and of course there's a conversation about sacred music versus doing, popular music, and Ray Charles went through that. A lot of them went through that, where they were judged by the churches. You shouldn't only do sacred music. And people like Mahalia Jackson, I would say, who's the Dorsey, not Robert Dorsey, but I forget his first name, Dorsey. He was a composer that composed a lot of music that was really popular in church and sacred music. And but people just chose, so for me, I try to marry both. Like for me, I look at what I perform as like ceremony. I choose lyrics that I do sing about love and stuff. I have some funky raunchy stuff. Like I remade Betty Davis's They Say I'm Different, and I'm vegan, so I can't say I eat chitlins and stuff. So I changed the words and talked about me, and that's why I'm different. And I've always felt different, not different in a bad way, but just, going against the grain of society and what society expects you to do. I've always had a different kind of path. And so in every setting I'm in, and no matter where I'm at, I'm a little different, so, and I don't mind. Thomas Dorsey, who is helping me? I need to be in my life more. This person keeps helping me with all this. Thank you, y'all. Just thank you at my back. Yes, Thomas Dorsey, yes. And so, and he completely changed gospel. He's a person that shifted gospel. So in jazz, you had like, Duke Ellington, of course, Count Basie, but Duke Ellington definitely shifted it. Then you have like, John Coltrane shifted jazz. He introduced a new shot, but before that was, of course, Dizzy Gillespie, and then with bebop, Dizzy Gillespie and Charlie Parker. And then you have the, John Coltrane, and then you have Miles Davis, who introduced some things in jazz. I'm fighting. People ridiculed him for changing how he dressed and playing electric horn. And I mean, I want to say that one of the things that in my research, King Oliver was the one that started playing muted trumpet. I think he played cornet or trumpet, but he would mute it, and people didn't do that. So every little thing changed the genre. Someone says, "Oh, I'm muted trumpet." Now you didn't trade the genre, or someone says, "We're not going to do big band. We're going to just play as a combo." That changed the genre. So all of us, all of artists can affect that. So I guess when the lady asked me, the sister asked me about the changing of jazz, I mean, it could change to something else. I just don't know right now, because it has to be born through someone adding something, piecing something together that's true to the art form, especially from the original, that adds something to now, is relevant to now. So, yes. So let's see. Let me do a little swing real quick. It's a song, Dizzy Gillespie. I love him too. He is so hilarious. Let me see if I can do this without the music. The moon is the same moon above you, aglow in its cool evening light. The stars are shining at night in Tunisia. Never does it shine so bright. The stars are aglow in the heavens, but only the wise understand. While shining at night in Tunisia, they guide you to the desert sand. Words fail to tell a tale too exotic to be told. Each night is a deeper night in a world ages old. The way that the day seems to vanish, the ending of day brings release. While shining at night in Tunisia, where the nights are filled with peace. I said, words fell to tell a tale too exotic to be told. Each night, a deep night world ages old. On the end of the days, in the vanish, end of the day swings release. Was shining at night in Tunisia, where the nights are filled with peace. Oh, shining at night in Tunisia, shining at night in Tunisia. Wonderful night in Tunisia. All right, and I hope I'm not, I know I'm
Beautiful.
kind of
It was
loud.
beautiful.
I just didn't know y'all can hear. Okay, good. And I will end, let's see where we at with the sounds. Let me see what I want to do next. There's a couple of songs that I wrote that I want to share with you. So one is a song I wrote for my husband. It's from my Rebirthed Above Ground album. And I wrote the song in the shower. The chorus came to me in the shower. I mean, it's just one of those things where I had a friend that compared me to Michael Jackson's process, but I just hear stuff. And I think most musicians and may get, like, I record on my phone, but a lot of musicians may get on a piano and try to write it out to remember. Luckily we have recording devices so we can remember, but we have our own personal spiritual band in the sky that downloads music. So I call it downloads, and it usually happens in the shower for me. But this one came from that. Stop from the jazz part. Kiss, la 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 la, kiss. I walk on my way, I feel love. Finger snacks when hands are clapping, things amazing, smiles amazing, and I feel the bliss of a sweet kiss. Kiss, la 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 la, kiss. I walk on my way, I feel love. Fingers snapping, hands are clapping, lips amazing, smiles are blazing, and I feel the kiss of a sweet kiss. When you first came into my life, you were a young and tender boy. I see you again, a man with a grin, offering to be my friend. In honor we moved, and spirit smiled upon me and you. You stood by my side with no judgment, I healed with pride. Then you asked me to be your wife. Kiss, la 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 la, kiss. I walk on my way, I feel love. Fingers smacking, hands are slapping, lips amazing, smiles are blazing, and I feel the bliss of a sweet kiss. Kiss, la 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 la, kiss. I walk on my way, I feel love. Fingers snapping, hands are clapping, lips amazing, smiles are blazing, and I feel the bliss of a sweet kiss. Boom ba-dum dum ba-dum dum ba-doo doo 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 ba-dum dum ba-dum dum ba-dum ba-dum ba-doo ba-doo doo doo boo-ba-dum ba-doo-ba-dum boom ba-dum ba-dum boom ba-dum 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 ba-da-da-da-da-dum ba-dum ba-dum dum ba-dum dum boom ba-dum ba-doo ba-dum 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 dum dum ba-dum ba-doo ba-doo boom dum ba-doo ba-dum dum ba-doo ba-dum doom ba doom boo, boom ba doo doo doom boo boo, boom ba doo ba doo boo, boom ba doom ba doom ba doo boo, ba doo doo ba doom doo, doom ba doo 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 ba doom boom. Um,
That was wonderful too. I'm telling you, it's not silence because we don't want to cheer for you. We're just so mesmerized. We don't want to interrupt you.
it's interesting because I want to say about that song. So I'm improvising big time. I'm hearing all the music in my head, and I'm thinking about what you all are hearing and what I want to share, and all these things mixed together in real time. Like I like to improv on the spot as much as I can. I love the challenge of it. But I will say that when I was younger, my family, it's a couple of things. I guess we've done a lot. So my family, we sung Sweet Honey and the Rock songs as a family around the city of Cleveland for Kwanzaa's, because we have a Cleveland Kwanzaa collective that's been around since the 80s, maybe late 70s, that comprises of different people, including my husband's parents, and my mother and them joined later on because his parents are my parents' elders. And we had different Kwanzaas all around the city, and we went every year. I remember seeing my husband at Kwanzaa as a child. We were children, and it was a big deal. It was so fun. Oh my God, it was so fun. And DC has a really great Kwanzaa movement too. I mean, of course, COVID, but they have a really good network as well. But anyway, we would be hired, or not hired, we'd be asked to sing at different cultural events and things that were freedom and justice. And my first solo in my life was at a Kwanzaa at 10 years old, singing the Azanian Freedom Song, which is about Stephen Biko in South Africa. So I had to know who that was, what was happening in South Africa. And I was 10 years old, and I was like, crying for dying for crying for dying. It was a big deal. And I listened to the song and I imitated it. And so to sing with them later is like full circle for me, because when I auditioned and found out that the bass singer, Dr. Esau Barnwell was leaving the group and going off to do other things, I was like, sure, that's, and so it was a really nice fit in regards to the succession and me and what I believe in, what I live, what I sing about in my history. It was a really nice fit. And vocally, I would sing bottom, but they all were trained to sing bottom too. So I would sing top as well sometimes. So it was a really great experience and great challenge to your ear as a vocalist. And that group is not about flexing or how well you can sing. It's about how well you can hear and how well you can control your voice. Because I remember we had our microphones to our mouth, and you can't do all this go back and forth. If you're hoarse, you can't be hoarse. You have to have your voice. So I couldn't lose my voice ever when I sung with them consistently. So anyway, when I was just singing just now, I want to say that the training in regards to singing that music, in addition to learning about Zap Mama in college, I got to sing with her and tour, but just that percussive music, and of course Diane Reeves, percussive singing and being the instrument in your mouth and playing along with it and trying to be all the parts or make it feel in, is something that I've learned from the experiences of listening to all these different types of music and then imitating them and singing in groups and singing with my family. Because my family, I'm the oldest of 6, and we all sing, and my niece and nephews now sing. So I have 2 nieces specifically that when we get together, they're gonna be doing an album together, but that we make up songs together. Like my one niece was like, we doing hard rock, and she's like playing. We all come in and join and make up sounds and make a song. So I grew up with that. So for me, it's really fun to kind of be creative in the moment vocally. So I just wanted to share that with that song. So I think I'll end with this one. And I think, where are we at with time? Is it at 4? Okay,
yes,
cool.
but we have time for one more song. We're not going to deny ourselves.
Okay,
that.
you're good. This is an example of like arranging something that someone else wrote. So my husband, Fanon Hill, wrote the song. It's from the soundtrack Love Love. I'm from the movie Love Love, but it's on the soundtrack. And initially on the soundtrack, I did all the vocals. I basically heard he plays guitar mainly and bass, and he plays other instruments, but those are the 2 his main instruments. And he wrote these songs like years ago. He's like a songwriter that just is now, sharing with the world in the last maybe 7 years or so. But anyway, he wrote the song. He played it for me. And it was like really like all these different parts. And then I did a vocal arrangement of it and did all the parts vocally, a cappella, for the soundtrack and for the movie. And then I sung it, I rearranged, I had an offer to do a show at the Kennedy Center, a part of an event. And I was like, what can I offer for the subject matter? Because I wanted to sing an original song. I didn't want to sing a cover. And I really enjoyed the challenge of writing something for something, by the way. I like to write a song for something. And so I said, I'm going to rearrange. Those words, the lyrics to that song are really nice. So I was like, I'm going to rearrange it and make something for it. So I taught it to the band, the bass line, the feel I wanted on the drums, and all that kind of thing. And so I rearranged the song that he wrote the lyrics to, and then arranged it. So there's a part of it that's like bass lines that I might have written, but it's still, when you arrange something, even if you add something to it, the original writer still gets the rights for that, unless you co-write it together initially. So I arranged this song. I Too Dream of Things Beautiful. Okay. Amina alada akda. Amina the alada. We want healing. We want justice. We want freedom. To dream. I dream of things beautiful. Wrong key. To dream. I dream of things beautiful. I do have the right, I do have the right to dream of things beautiful. I do have the right to dream of things beautiful. A grandfather freed from prison after 40 long years, embracing his children's children for the very first time. A grandmother whose family lets her know how much they love her for all she endured for present and future generations. Emotions and sensations are electric in you. You got to breathe them to give birth to the beauty in you. I know it's hard to dream when so much has been taken from you, but you just got to remember that dreams will lift you. You. Na bida do 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 buru de do buru be be buru do bu de buru be buru do do de buru do do de do do de ha ha. I do dream, I do dream, I do dream, I do dream. I do have the right, you do have the right to dream of things, to dream of things, to dream of things, to dream of things beautiful.
Wow, I think y'all need to come off mute for this one. That was just amazing. That is a way to wrap up a program.
Yes, that was awesome.
Oh,
Yes,
Sandra, beautiful.
Awesome.
Woo! So
awesome.
yes. Wow.
Wonderful.
And actually,
Loved it.
when I think of things, I mean, if we couldn't have been denied that song, I do have a right to dream of things beautiful. And we do. We have been through a lot over these last few years. COVID and so much more. That would take us on to another hour of program if we went through everything. But to deny us that would have been tragic. So thank you so much. Navasha, this program was absolutely amazing. I knew it would be, but it far exceeded my expectations. I want to thank all the Target for supporting and helping with this program. My co-chair, Anita Hardy, Tiffany Towson, who introduced us to you. She led this event. So this was actually her vision. It came to fruition. She would she would not want to take credit, but this was all her vision, her idea. She introduced us to you, and she helped us to make it happen. Everyone that's here today, this program would not have taken place without you, without the support of our president, who you met earlier, first vice, Sir Angela Williams, and the tech team, because without the tech team, this would not have happened either. So we have to give it up for everyone. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. As you know, Iota Lambda Omega chapter has a lot going on. We have more things on the calendar, so do follow us on social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We are everywhere. Our website, please check us out there and check us out for our additional programming. And with that, I want to thank you, Navasha. Again, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope everyone has a great rest of
Thank
your
you,
day.
Sora. And I'm a Sora. I think maybe people know that. I'm not sure, but the ladies.
Yes, Morgan Alpha Delta. That were going. You saw that. You saw it in the chat. You saw your Morgan prayers coming through. So yes, so one of our own.
Yes.
So with that, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you. I loved it.